Good afternoon, Ghana, and welcome to Pan-African TV. Today, we are still on a program called Clean Ghana, Our Environment, Our Health. Today, we are going to have a discussion on policy direction for environmental health service delivery in Ghana. And I have with me a resourceful person from the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources. I'm going to introduce my guest after the commercial break. But before that, take some water because water is life. My
people, it's a bad to live in a dirty environment. Malaria, cholera, and other preventable diseases come as a result of insanitary and unhygienic practices. We can give you free mosquito nets, free drugs, but trust me, Aya, you can still fall sick and die if you still live in a dirty environment. Be wise and stay clean, my people, cause prevention is better than cure. What me not say?
Change your behavior. I say change your attitude. Change your behavior. I say change your attitude.
Everywhere they poo-poo, everywhere they litter, everywhere they wee-wee. Bola, bola, everywhere they poo-poo, everywhere they litter, everywhere they wee-wee. Bola, bola.
Why the poo-poo? Why the litter? Why the wee-wee? Bola, Africa. Why the poo-poo? Why the litter? Why the wee-wee? Bola, Africa.
Somebody tell me what's going on.
Please, somebody tell me what's going on.
Somebody tell me what's going on.
Please, somebody tell me what's going on.
Somebody tell me what's going on.
Yes, he die basa basa, improper layout, inadequate ventilation. Single room, ni pede mono, yet to mankind. In your mafosu die unu yen kofu enu die bocho. Is your top.
So Bunudia one can some they mafu to some kakre wa supeme. Yo coffee, oh my ya woman, oh mani ya mama. So Bunudia.
Welcome back, viewers. In case you just tune in, this is Clean Ghana on Pan-African TV, the widest television station all over Africa and across the board. I have in the studio my guest, and my guest is a very humble and an energetic person. He is a public health engineer and has been in the service over or close to 3 decades. He is a visiting lecturer to the School of Engineering, KNUST. He has worked with UNICEF and International Labour Organization in Liberia. That is around 2004, 2008. Yes, and he has been the director of waste management in the Metropolitan Assembly, both Accra and Kumasi. He has done a lot of publications, and currently he is the environmental health director under the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources. He is the person of Mr. MENSAH.
Anthony.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, my brother.
How are you doing, Director?
Fine, thank you.
It's a privilege having you here.
Very much so.
To commence, this is Clean Ghana, our environment, our health. I know you have been watching this program since we commenced this program.
To be honest with you, I've never watched it. I understand you started a couple of weeks ago. You've had 2 slots, and this is the 3rd one.
Exactly.
I haven't watched it, but today I'm here.
Today you are here.
Yes.
Okay, very nice. Your ministry is the youngest ministry so far in Ghana, and can you tell us something about your ministry and what exactly you hope to achieve?
Thank you very much. The name of the ministry is Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources. Sanitation issues are numerous. There are several issues relating to sanitation. Hitherto, water was part of the Ministry of Water Resources, Ministry of Water Resources, Works and Housing. And with the advent of the Ministry of Sanitation, water resources was taken away from the Ministry of Water Resources, Works and Housing, and then added to sanitation to form this ministry that I work in, which is the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources. The ministry has 2 mandates, technically. We have mandate for delivery of water, and then also mandate for delivery of sanitation services. So these are the 2 core functions of the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources. And therefore, they form the 2 technical directorates of the ministry. That is the Environmental Health and Sanitation Directorate, which I head, and then also the Water Directorate, which is headed by a colleague. Then we have the traditional directorates, like the Finance and Administration. We have Policy, Planning, Budgeting, Monitoring and Evaluation. We also have the Human Resource, and then the other traditional directorates, just as other ministries do have. So these are the functions that the ministry performs. As the name implies, regarding sanitation, the ministry leads in the formulation of policies and then also provision of guidelines to guide sanitation delivery across the country. In the same vein, water also is one of the mandates, and therefore water policies relating to water is formulated by the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources, and then also the guidelines that will see to the implementation of the policies thereof. So simply put, the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources is supposed to deliver water to the populace, and then also to deliver sanitation services to the Ghanaian populace.
Mr. Anthony Mensah.
Hello.
Do we have national sanitation policy?
Absolutely. Before the advent of the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources, sanitation service delivery across the country was situated in the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. So during that time, it was up until 2017 when the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources was formed or was created. So there is a policy, we call it Environmental Sanitation Policy, which was developed by the then Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. And the directorate that I head, that is the Environmental Health and Sanitation Directorate, was then the engine room at the Ministry of Local Government that led in the formulation of that policy. So we have the Environmental Sanitation Policy, which is the principal policy document guiding sanitation delivery across the country. And it was created first in the year 1999. Then in the year 2010, it was reviewed or revised. So the revised version, which is now operational, is the 2010 version. And I have a copy here that I want to display for viewers to have a look at. That's a copy of the current Environmental Health and Sanitation, Environmental Sanitation Policy. That's right. I must also add that, and I think in the course of time I will throw more light on it. It is due for review. Because there are a lot of water has passed under the bridge, and 10 years down the line, from 2010 to 2019, about 9 years now. So we need to start the review process to review it or revise it so that it will be responsive to current trend of affairs. Okay,
thank you, sir. You said the first one was published in 1999,
yes,
and was reviewed in 2010.
Yes.
What were some of the limitations that led to the revision of such policy?
The some of the limitations specifically were, for example, cost recovery and then financing. Sanitation service delivery is quite expensive, and therefore if you don't have a sustainable means of financing the services delivery, there's always a problem. So that was one of the issues that had to be addressed. Besides that, in 1999, the Millennium Development Goals had not come into being. And once the Millennium Development Goals was ushered in, there was the need to review existing policies to reflect the contents or the requirements of the Millennium Development Goals. In the same vein, we now have a different set of goals, which is the Sustainable Development Goals. And it's also calling for a review. So the policy document, actually, the revised version, which is in use now, is grouped under 3 sections, or it's divided into 3 parts. We have the first part, which deals with issues relating to the current sanitation situation in the country in terms of context. We also have the National Development Direction, or National Development Priorities. It's also captured in there. And then also we have the principles guiding the policy. So that's what the first part deals with. The second part deals with the challenges pertaining in the sanitation sector or environmental sanitation sector, the constraints. And then also we have the objectives thereof, and then the measures that are supposed to be put in place to address the challenges and objectives. The third part looks at the implementation. And before I go to the third part, I must say that the heart of the policy document is the second part, which is the challenges and the constraints, and then also the measures and actions that are supposed to be put in place to address the challenges. So that is the heart or the core of the policy document. The part 3 deals with the implementation of the policy, and then also the arrangement, the institutional and roles and responsibilities. There are various institutions that are involved with sanitation delivery, from service beneficiaries down to those who actually are supposed to deliver the service, including the policy and guidelines that are supposed to be developed to guide sanitation delivery in the country. So these are the sections of the sanitation policy.
Let us look at the objective of the policy. So can you tell us something about the objective of the environmental sanitation policy?
Yeah, certainly. The objective, I will start with the goal of the policy document. Sanitation or environmental sanitation is a priority service. It is a human right kind of service. It is key to the development of every nation, and therefore the policy prioritizes environmental sanitation. Now, the objective of the policy document is, 1, to ensure that people live in good health, and then also to promote quality of life. We are seeking to improve the life of the people, and then also not just improving their health status, but also they have to enjoy improvement in the totality of their life. So health promotion and then quality of life. These are the 2 major objectives of the policy.
So with that, does the individuals and the MMAs or other agencies have responsibilities to play in there?
They do have roles and responsibilities.
What are some of the roles? Let's restrict ourselves to individuals and the MMDAs.
Thank you very much. In the first place, there are various, I mentioned the challenges relating to environmental sanitation earlier on. So I want us to even address the challenges that we are talking about, and then also some of the measures that are supposed to be put in place to address the challenges. Then we come to the roles and responsibilities, because I mentioned that the policy is divided into three sections. Part one is the challenges, the challenges that are prevailing in the sector. Part two deals with the part one deals with the context, which is the current situation, situational analysis sort of. The second portion or part deals with the constraints and challenges, and then the third one is the implementation, and then roles and responsibilities, which comes with it. Yeah, so regarding the challenges, the policy has what we call the 7 pillars. There are 7 areas that have been identified that need to be attended to, that need attention if sanitation delivery in the country will be successful. So the first one is capacity development. The capacity cuts across capacity of the national office that has responsibility for the policy formulation itself. And here I'm talking about, and I must say that when the policy was developed, it used to be the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. But now, with the creation of the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources, that responsibility has been removed or transferred from local government to Ministry of Sanitation. So at the Ministry of Sanitation, the capacity building is supposed to look at the ministry's capacity to be able to develop the requisite policies that will guide effective sanitation delivery in the country. And it starts with the Environmental Health and Sanitation Directorate, where I head. At the time it was developed, it used to be a unit within the then Ministry of Local Government. So the capacity was not that much up to scratch, because a unit looking at sanitation delivery across the whole country is a huge task, and therefore there's the need of capacity in terms of numbers of professionals. Then in terms of the individual capacity, the quality of the individuals that are there, in terms of academic qualification, and then also the professional practice experience that is required. So the policy recommended that the unit should be upgraded to become a directorate, and it was done. Then it was expanded, more professionals were recruited, and their capacity became enhanced. Then from there, you also look at the middle level at the regional level. So you need to build the capacities of the regional coordinating councils where the environmental health regional directorate is situated. So some efforts were also made. I must say that we still have a long way to go. Then from there, you go down to the assemblies. That is the metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies that have the primary responsibility for sanitation delivery on the ground when it comes to implementation. So some efforts have also been made in the course of time to enhance the capacities of these entities at the various levels. Then even at the assembly level, you go down to the lower tiers, the structures of the assembly, at the sub-metro level, at the unit committee, at the town council. These, the operators at these levels all needed to undergo some kind of capacity building. Then we have the private sector, those who are on the ground delivering the service. And I must also indicate that the policy has it that sanitation delivery in the country should be handled predominantly by the private sector, up to the tune of about 80%. Then the assemblies will retain capacity to handle about 20% of the totality of the service to be delivered. So the private sector's capacity to handle this huge task is critical if they will be able to live up to the expectation. So they also had to undergo some kind of training in terms of their equipment holding and then managerial skills, and all that come into play when such a service is supposed to be delivered. So that is for capacity building.
Okay, so before you go on, I want to know the reason why about 80% has to go to the private service. Don't you think the public sector, they don't have technical know-how to manage the service at that level?
Yeah, so that also calls for the capacity in that direction. The private sector is supposed to deliver the service, and therefore the assembly should have the capacity to manage the contracts that these private sector operators are supposed to sign with them. Supervision, monitoring, and evaluation at the local level. So the capacity comes in two forms. The capacity for them to deliver that in-house version of the service, which is the 20%, and then also the capacity for them to also monitor and supervise the private operators within their jurisdiction. So these both aspects of capacity building were very important. The next in line is the IENC, Information, Education, and Communication. That is also very important. Now, if you look at the attitude of Ghanaians, people litter the environment with impunity. We flout environmental sanitation laws with impunity. Therefore, the assemblies also needed the skills to be able to handle information dissemination and then also communicating the values of good sanitation, how to appeal to the public for the public to understand and agree to what is being propagated. And then also the education goes with communication. We need to educate the public, sensitize them, let them understand the consequences of poor sanitation so that they will refrain from that bad attitude of indiscriminate dumping of refuse, indiscriminate littering, defecating in the open. And open defecation is one of the major challenges that we are facing now. So that's another area. Then the third area is legislation and regulation.
Okay.
We need to have adequate legislative instrument. It starts with the national law. The policy is not a law. Therefore, people can't be prosecuted based on the policy.
On the policy, okay.
Once the policy comes, there is a need for the downstream legislative instrument and then regulation. So you regulate the the private sector in the delivery of their services, and then we also need to legislate appropriate or adequate laws to guide sanitation delivery. And the downstream version is the bylaws of the various assemblies.
Okay.
So there's the need for the assemblies to have their bylaws that can bite, that is responsive to all the issues relating to sanitation. And what has been done so far is the ministry developed a generic bylaw which was given to all the assemblies to adapt. And the adaptation should depend on what is happening within every jurisdiction, so that eventually we'll have different types of bylaws, but they are all taking inspiration from that generic document that was prepared by the ministry. So that was also part of the areas that we needed to pay attention to. Okay. Then we have the levels of service. Sanitation delivery should not be done as one kind of one suit fits all. But we should have different levels of service to suit different environments. You go to a first-class residential area, and the type of service that they will require is totally different from an area where you have some kind of slum conditions. The road network is not good. You pass somewhere and then you enter somebody's house. And you cannot access these communities with the same kind of vehicles as you use for a first-class residential area. Some will need door-to-door service for solid waste collection, for example. Some areas will need sewage system. Some areas will have to depend on on-site sanitation system, depending on the conditions prevailing in these different settings. So we have different levels of service, and it should also be commensurate with the capacity of the service beneficiaries to also contribute towards the delivery of the service. Then also we have the fifth one being financing and cost recovery.
Okay.
Now the policy is that there are various principles that are guiding this policy. For example, we have one as polluter pays policy, or polluter pays principle.
And what is that one?
Those who generate waste or who contribute to the pollution of the environment should pay for the mitigation measures that are supposed to be put in place.
Okay.
So, simply put, if you are enjoying solid waste collection service, because you are generating some amount of waste on daily basis, and then somebody has to come and collect it and then go and dispose of it appropriately, you need to pay for the cost of collecting and transporting this waste, and then also the disposal. But it also depends on ability to pay. So it's a mix of considerations. Some subsidy elements should come in, and then also we have at the back of our minds sustainability of the service. So where necessary, the polluter should pay everything. If it's not possible, somebody has to pay a little bit more to compensate for the shortfall coming from other parts of the divide. So that is the financing and cost recovery. And then also the R&D, research and development.
Okay, before we come to the R&D, I was just told that policies are not laws, so it cannot bite. Let's go for a quick commercial break, and we will take it off from where we ended.
Toilet and bathrooms are converted into bedrooms. Now gutters, bushes, beaches, rivers. Why with the poo-poo? Science, so yeah, the sources of beer drinking water. Mr. President, members of parliament, no mind him for. Yeah, well, professors, doctors, masters, pastors, wahane so. Yeah, yes, you know, people na me say, yeah, no, monsieur pa. Sachet water, a bit of pure water, a big cry, heavy, impurities. Got a monsieur na ye de water, fruit and vegetables. In crime, papa, ye mola, ya jenya, ye baho yatna, how fascinating. Ghana, Ebola, Ghana.
Today, we can't trust sources of water anymore. Confidence is gone due to human activities. Same human activities introduces well-mechanized machines which purifies water. I bring to you ultimate natural mineral water. Deep from underground, tasty, well-purified and corporately packaged. Ultimate natural mineral water. Let's drink the new. For bulk, call 020-379-1888 or 0244-515-801. Ultimate natural mineral water. My water, your water, our water.
Welcome back, viewers. If you just tune in, this is Clint Ghana on Pan-African TV. We are here. I am here with hosting Mr. Anthony MENSAH, the Director of Environmental Health Directorate of the Sanitation Ministry. We are continuing the program. Mr. Can you take us from where you ended?
Okay, thank you very much. I have two more to complete the various challenges. And the next one is R&D, research and development. Research and development is critical when it comes to sanitation delivery. We have emerging issues. The composition of waste is changing by the year. Ghana is developing as a nation, and therefore our eating pattern is changing. And once the eating pattern is changing, it comes with different composition of waste. And as we go through this kind of trajectory, there's the need for us to have research and development up to the task, so that we are researching into the behavior of these new waste composition, and then also how to handle them by way of collection and transport, and then also most importantly treatment and disposal. A typical example is plastics. Plastics or plastic waste is a major challenge on our hand now. Almost every activity in the country comes with the production of plastic waste. You go to the market, you buy stuff, and almost every single item you buy comes with at least one plastic bag. In some cases, you have about 5. So by the time the mother or the one who went to the market comes home, you have loads of plastic waste to dispose of. And these end up in a storage bin at the household level, and then it eventually gets to our final disposal site. If it is not properly collected and transported to the final disposal site, they end up in the drains, and they cause serious havoc at the least downpour. So research and development is supposed to look at the characteristics of our waste in the course of time. We also need to look at how the collection and transport should be handled, and then most importantly, how the disposal, treatment and disposal should also be handled. Then we have the monitoring and evaluation. The ministry develops the policy and then the guidelines. Then it is left with the municipalities to implement. In the course of the implementation, there is the need for monitoring and evaluation to be handled or to be put in place. Now, the monitoring and evaluation enables, it comes of course with key performance indicators, so that there's also a feedback or reporting back kind of mechanism, so that we know what is going on, and in the course of time it will also inform the necessary revision that the policy should undergo. Then we'll always be abreast with events. Otherwise, we keep sitting down, and then things change so much and we are unaware. Then we are lagging behind in terms of environmental sanitation delivery. So these are the 7 areas, which I call the 7 pillars. So these were looked at, and all the challenges associated with each of them were properly analyzed. And then based on that, prescriptions have been put in place in the document within that second part, as I mentioned earlier on, which is the core of the policy document. So there are actions and measures to be taken to avert or to address the challenges associated with these 7 areas, so that environmental sanitation delivery in the country will be more effective and then abreast with time.
Okay. Thank you for that. So quickly, can we look at the roles of the individuals and the MMDAs?
Thank you very much. The rules cut across. We have the rules that are supposed to be performed by the ministry, and in this case, the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources, which is the policy formulator. And then we also have all the other institutions that are associated with sanitation delivery in the country. So I will even start with the individual or at the household level.
Okay.
So for the purposes of emphasis and for people to be aware that indeed these roles and responsibilities that I'm talking about are actually enshrined in the policy document.
Okay.
I'm not mentioning these things out of my top of my head. I didn't create them. They are enshrined in the policy document. So we have individuals' responsibilities. Every individual, establishment or institution, and here I'm talking about the third portion of the document, which is implementation arrangements.
Okay.
So every individual, establishment or institution shall be responsible for A, cleansing within and in the immediate environs of the property they occupy, including access ways and drains and roads abutting the property.
So which means we shouldn't even generate the waste, or even if waste is generated, we should even be cleaning.
Exactly. So here we are talking about in your house, the road in front of your house, the area between the frontage of your house up to the middle of the road is your responsibility in terms of cleaning.
Wow.
Then on your right hand side and your left hand side, and also behind your house, if you share a fence wall with another house, then you are responsible from your building up to the fence wall. If it is an open area, then your responsibility goes beyond your fence wall and then to cater for that open space in front or by your house.
If I can understand you, when there are two houses and there is a lane or a road in between them,
right.
which means if I own here, you own that portion, the middle of the road, half of it is my responsibility to clean.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Then,
but do we do that?
In practice, not quite. Recently, the Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources has directed that a letter be written to all the metropolitan municipal and district assemblies across the country to ensure that property owners take care of the frontage, the sides, and the back of their properties. And that letter has gone, and the responsibility now lies with the assemblies to then convey that message to property owners. Then the next one talks about temporary storage of waste within the property and disposal thereof outside the property, as may be directed by the competent authority. That is another responsibility of the householder or the property owner. That apart from ensuring that the frontage and the sides of your house, the surroundings, immediate surroundings of your house is well kept, you also have a responsibility to store the waste you generate within your house and then make it available to an entity that has a responsibility to collect the waste and then go and throw away.
Okay, so assuming I generate, everybody generates waste,
yes,
being liquid or solid, and with my liquid waste in front of, where I have to keep it clean,
yes,
I construct a soak away or a catch pit,
that's right,
or a manhole there. Is it against the law?
If it is within your property, it is not against the law.
No, it is not within my. That I do take care of the said plea that you told me the law is telling me to do, but it's not part of this after my ward.
No, then that one, the municipality in question is where you should go and seek permission, and I don't think they will allow you to do that because it is not your property. It is an open space in front of your house.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a responsibility to keep that place clean,
but I don't
you cannot erect a structure there.
Wow.
So you have to, before you want to do any such thing, you have to go to the assembly in question and then seek permission.
Okay.
Then they will tell you what to do. The next one, taking measures to prevent the breeding of pests and disease vectors within and in the immediate environs of the property they occupy, ensuring that the wider environment is not polluted or otherwise adversely affected by their activities, hygienically disposing of all waste they generate in public areas by use of an authorized public toilet or solid waste container as appropriate, participating in all communal environmental sanitation exercises organized by the community or its representatives. So these are the responsibilities that individuals have on their head when it comes to environmental sanitation.
Okay, so talking about the waste generation, if I do generate waste in my house, and now that we don't have communal dumping, blah blah, what should I do to be able to take care of the waste that I've generated?
Every part of all the major cities and even the urban centers have an accredited service provider.
Okay.
So wherever you live, it is part of a concession that a certain waste collection company has. So it is your duty to store your waste appropriately within your house or within your premises, and then make it available to that entity that is supposed to come and collect. And then you pay the requisite fees on the appropriate time.
Can I do dumping in my house, then I burn it?
It is not allowed. It's against the law.
But it's my own property.
No, it is your own property, yes. But then, when you are burning the waste, you are going to emit some fumes. And that smoke is going to disturb the public. So you don't have the right to do that. And it is in the bylaws.
Wow.
It is in the bylaw of all the assemblies. You are not permitted to burn waste in your house. You can compost it using the appropriate methodology, but you cannot burn, neither can you bury the waste in your house. It is also against the law.
Wow.
Because if you do that, it decomposes and then it leaches some pollutants to go down and then contaminate underground water. So it is not permitted to do that.
Wow.
Now we have also the community programs that are supposed to be undertaken. We have community-based organizations and their roles and responsibilities. We have those for the principal institutions. And here the principal institutions are, number one, the ministry, now the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources. We have the policy formulation, review of the policy, provision of guidelines to guide sanitation delivery, and then also monitoring and evaluation. Provision of generic bylaws to guide assemblies to adapt for their respective jurisdictions. So these are the roles and responsibilities of the ministry. Then we have the metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies. They are supposed to implement the policy on the ground. Waste collection is their responsibility. They are supposed to ensure that the environment generally is kept clean, such that people living in will enjoy good health. It is their responsibility to ensure that once the waste is generated or collected, there is an appropriate location for the waste to be disposed of. Now, this particular responsibility, now that we have numerous municipalities, for example, within the former AMA enclave, that's Accra metropolitan area, some few months ago they had 10 sub-metropolitan areas. At the moment, a good number of those, about 7 or so, have been taken out to constitute different municipalities. And the 3 remaining are now the AMA proper.
Okay.
Now, because of the fact that we have several municipalities within the greater Accra metropolitan area, and we have similar situation also in Kumasi, we have similar situation in Takoradi and some of the other urban centers. For each municipality to have their treatment and disposal facilities, exclusive facilities, is not achievable. One, land is an issue, and therefore there is a need for assemblies to share these facilities. And once we get to this stage, then the responsibility should lie with a higher body that will oversee the treatment and disposal of waste that is being generated. And that responsibility now lies with the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources. So these are some of the things that are going to be incorporated in the revision of the policy document. That's
yes,
right.
Last week I had Mr. Isaac Waka in the studio, and he mentioned about we have about only 2 dumping sites. I mean, dumping sites in the whole Accra, and I don't know why, because looking at the whole Accra, the tons of waste we generate a day, I don't think is going to really be effective for the Search Act, because even when the drivers, when they pick the search refuse at the various homes, they will just go and queue, and once they queue, still waste are being generated daily. So what measures are you taking in place to make sure that, I mean, even every assembly should even have how do we call it, waste dumping waste site, or even recycling site for proper waste disposal?
Yes, recycling facilities, yes, that is possible. The challenge is land. If there is land, each municipality can have a recycling plant of sizable capacity, so that the waste collected there could be sent there for recycling. But when it comes to final disposal facilities, that one, it is difficult to get land in every municipality. Yes, it is true that we have only the Pong sanitary landfill site, which is the engineered landfill facility within the Greater Accra area. Besides that, there are other dump sites that are operated by Zoom Lion. One is at Nsumia. Besides that, there is also Ajin Kotoku, where we have an integrated recycling plant. So the waste is sent there, undergoes some sorting, then the organic proportion is composted, and then the recyclables are also taken to other treatment facilities recycling facilities for recycling. The Pong plant landfill facility is also almost full to capacity. Therefore, there's the urgent need for replacement or for new facilities to be put in place. The ministry has been working very hard to secure land, number one, and then also funding to build new facilities. Fortunately, we have a couple of projects under which we have managed to have installation of landfill facilities as a component. So the land issues are also being resolved. We are very close to securing at least 2 sites which we are going to use for these new facilities. But before then, we will need to have an interim measure in place. We are preparing a place to to facilitate waste disposal even before we get to the actual construction of the new landfill facilities. So very soon, this temporary facility will come on stream. Zoom Lion also has a couple of other integrated sites. One is at opposite Kwalebu, within the AMA enclave. That's also servicing the motor cane riders and then a few of the trucks that are collecting waste from the central business district. It is a major challenge. I shouldn't downplay it at all. But we are not slipping.
It is a major, and it is a major challenge that we have in Ghana here. You are watching Clean Ghana on Pan-African TV. You can send your text messages and WhatsApp through the number on the screen, and we are going to read it for you. Let's have a short commercial break, and afterwards we will continue the discussion.
Today, we can't trust sources of water anymore. Confidence is gone due to human activities. Same human activities introduces well-mechanized machines which purifies water. I bring to you ultimate natural mineral water. Deep from underground, tasty, well-purified and corporately packaged. Ultimate natural mineral water. Let's drink the new. For bulk, call 020-379-1888 or 0244-515-801. Ultimate natural mineral water. My water, your water, our water.
Welcome back. You are watching Clean Ghana, and I'm hosting Mr. Anthony MENSAH, the Director of Environmental Health Directorate at the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources. Unfortunately, our phone for the text messages are off, so please pardon us, and we can't read your text messages. We are very sorry for the inconvenience caused. But before we run up the whole program or the show today, do you have anything to tell your listeners?
Thank you very much. Yes, the ministry is doing its best. The challenges are numerous, but the ministry is working very hard. There are a lot of engagements that is going on between the ministry and various private operators, some local, some foreign, and very soon the investments that is required to bring sanitation up within Ghana are going to show up. So people should expect to see a lot of interventions.
Wow, we can never wait for that.
Within the next few
nice
months and years.
Wow.
So we are working very hard. Then you also asked a question about the location of the ministry, the directorate, that is Environmental Health and Sanitation Directorate within the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources, vis-a-vis the environmental health officers who are on the ground delivering sanitation services located under the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. That is true. That is what the ministry came to inherit. But then the needed institutional realignment would take some time to get done.
Okay.
We are working hard. At the moment, we are collaborating with Ministry of Local Government and then also the Office of the Head of Local Government Service to get the work done in a harmonious manner.
Okay.
So as time goes on,
very soon,
when the need arises, the necessary institutional realignment will be undertaken.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony Mensah. I'm very grateful to host you, the whole director.
It has been my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yes, viewers, this is Clean Ghana. This section is happening every Sunday from 3 to 4 o'clock. You've heard it yourself, the responsibilities of people. You think everything is for the government. No, the government has a role to play. The MMDAs also have a role to play. And you yourself, you have a role to play. Next week, we are going to have environmental sanitation in relation to the flooding. Every day when it rains, there is flooding and there is death. How long should this continue? We are going to have a discussion on that next week. So catch us next week the same time. My name is Ita Bobo, your host for Clean Ghana. Thank you for watching.
Yo, Kofi, oh my.